as a member of the Environment Committee on the European Union, which governs the United Kingdom's entire environment and energy policy. I wrote to him privately at Clarence House and said, please, can I beg you to look more deeply into the science of this, because I don't think you're getting sound advice. And I think that the reason you're not getting sound advice is I think the people close to you are deliberately holding back information. And I said, please, I also beg you on this, Your Royal Highness, if you'd be so kind, would you reply to me personally? Because even if you don't agree with me, even if you don't like what I've got to say, at least I know that this letter was put in front of you. 3 months later, I got a letter from a lackey. Now, I actually don't believe the Prince of Wales saw my letter. Now, I don't know who advises him. I don't know what the situation is, and it's his own fault. I don't have a lot of sympathy. He wants to really actually sharpen his act up. But it does make you wonder, Alex, does it not, how deeply penetrated the entire British and European system has been by these individuals.
Absolutely. Gordon Brown's announcement that doesn't matter, we're going to register everybody's carbon and start the taxes whether you like it or not. How is that marching along, A? And B, how big of a defeat was Copenhagen going down in flames to these people?
Well, of course, not only was Copenhagen a ridiculous shambles, of course, as you saw the limousines driving through the blizzard to get there, and you couldn't invent it, frankly, could you? And the London Times have just said, Giles Corran, I might have mentioned this earlier, says, we're all extremely stupid. The coldest weather that we've had in Arizona, Texas, Korea, China, the United Kingdom and Poland, so on and so forth, the coldest winter for something like 30 or 40 years, and we're all too stupid to understand that that's what global warming does. The trouble is, I think, with politicians, they're so detached, they think we're stupid. They think because we're not proactive necessarily in politics that somehow we're stupid, and we have to somehow let them know that we're not stupid, we don't buy it. But you've got to bear in mind, Gordon Brown, Alex, is actually dysfunctional. He's a dysfunctional individual. He's laughably hopeless.
I mean, just looking at people, men and women, if I saw him in an airport and he wasn't the leader of England, I would think there's something wrong with that man. I mean, he does just, and I don't normally judge a book by its cover, but also his actions. He really comes off as like some kind of freak.
Well, he is a freak, and of course he's never been elected. Just bear in mind, he wasn't elected. He never stood for office. He didn't lead the party. He won the leadership of a UK Labour Party, unopposed, and he's never gone forward for an election, and the people have never judged him. Now, that's our system. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's the situation. So the British has never judged him, but sadly, Alex, we have another vacuous, rather stupid young man waiting in the wings, David Cameron, who takes his tie off and calls himself Dave in order to impress the working classes over here, which doesn't cut any mustard at all. But he's equally stupid and vacuous, but he looks good on television, Alex, so that's all right then, isn't it?
So what's happening in England? I mean, I do see your party and others really starting to gain ground. The people are slowly but surely, at least from afar, and of course you see that from afar here in the U.S., are starting to get it.
To an extent, what's happened recently is that they've disengaged. And they need to re-engage. The polls that we have now are very low. People have stopped bothering to turn out. And that's what we've got to change round. We've got to get people, they've started to not vote for the main parties, but we need to turn that voting in a positive way for parties who are offering something else. And I'm quite sure this happens in America. When I go on the stump talking to people, they agree with everything I say. They say, Godfrey, that's absolutely first class, agree with everything you say. And I say, well, can I rely on your vote at the election? They say, sorry, no, I always vote Conservative. Or Labour. You need a new party, and we've got to get your country out of it, because the new world has to lead us through this, to be honest.
All right, going back
people
briefly,
have got to stop voting Republican and Democrat as a matter of habit.
Absolutely, because that power structure is fully corrupt. But going back here briefly as we got a break, you say you were pulled aside, and I've had other members of the European Union Parliament on who've been openly rebuked. The former leader of your party, told to shut up. They get to call him names, Nigel Farage, but he can't even expose their fraud. And you're saying you were pulled aside and said and told to shut up. I mean, how undemocratic is that?
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? And the same people that took me aside and asked me to sort of calm down in these chambers of debate, which is, I thought, what politics was all about, are the same people who go back to London pretending, that they're batting for Britain. But of course, people will always, it's tribal. Politics is tribal. It's the same probably with Republicans and Democrats. It's sort of tribal. People always revert to type. And we get the politicians we deserve, in the end.
Stay there. That's key. It's like the Cowboys versus the Redskins, or, with your soccer teams, the two big teams against each other. They want to feel like they win by going with the winner.
Hi.
Our guest is going to be with us 5 minutes into the next hour. Then I'm going to open the phones up and cover news. In the final hour, I'm going to get into Glenn Beck, because he is the leader of the Tea Party movement. He is bigger than Rush Limbaugh now with his radio and TV show. There's no doubt. But he is calling for new taxes, and it's a very dangerous situation. And so we're going to discuss it. Because I heard him doing some things yesterday and today. It's just, this guy, my gut, everything he does tells me, look out, because it's the Republican Party trying to maneuver the revolution of awakening and to control it for the status quo of big government and corporate looting. And I'm going to break that down coming up. Also, more on the flu. Mr. Bloom, I interrupted you 30 minutes ago when you tried to get into the flu fraud, and now it's openly all over the newspapers, at least in Europe and the U.S., but I haven't seen much in England. I've seen some in England, in the Telegraph, major government officials are saying, yes, this was a premeditated fraud and the vaccine was dangerous. The German government wouldn't take it. Their military wouldn't take it. This is quite a scandal.
Yes, in fact, you're a little bit ahead of me, I have to say, Alex, because I've been in France now for 2 or 3 days, so you're ahead of me. But it's still being, when I left, it was still being the flu. We were still peddling the flu, would you believe, to babies in between 6 months and 5 years old. It's still being, and basically the inference in the advert is that if you don't do it, basically you're a bad parent. It's quite strong stuff, Alex. It's quite strong stuff.
Oh, they're still advertising it here, too, with the exact same pitch. It's just that simultaneously they say this is the biggest flop ever. People aren't taking it in Europe. They're not taking it here. And it's rotting on the shelves. And it's coming out that it was just a giant hoax.
Well, the British Medical Journal here has condemned it. And I did write a parliamentary question to say, they keep saying people are dying of swine flu. They've been saying, there isn't a single recorded death in the United Kingdom of swine flu. Would you believe? Not a single one. I asked a parliamentary question. There's not a single one. So it's interesting how this scam has been moved forward. And what is another interesting thing, of course, is it not, that this is a big money-making scam for the pharmaceutical companies, but they have been absolved of their responsibility to do the due diligence that most pharmaceutical drugs need to do.
Well, they were given governmental liability protection because it was a global pandemic, but we now learn the UN changed its rules for pandemic to give it that liability protection.
Yes, absolutely, and this is how you get these frauds start. It's all, I think we had this conversation before. Follow the money, Alex. You'll normally find when you get to the root of it, it's about money. Somebody's got their hand in the till. It's either politicians or pharmaceutical company or bankers. How on earth we got ourselves into this mess over bankers laughing at us now, laughing at us with their big houses and their posh cars as we've bailed them out, all over the world. How could we be this stupid? Where did it come from?
Well, again, I think what our founding fathers did here in the United States, you look at the Magna Carta and the Parliament Act, it took decades for people in history to get the basic liberties that we fought for. And so I think people need to understand the long view of history. So many people demand instant gratification. They're not happy with the government, but they then just stand down and throw their hands up. That's not the answer. We've got to claw back every bit of freedom we can, and that's how these wars for freedom are won.